Welcome, everybody, back to There Will Be Bets. This is the NFL Week 18 edition. I am your host, Cole Oxane. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts, Jake LaSalle, Drew LaSalle, and we're here to handicap everything in the last full week of the NFL season. We're going to cover the big matchups that still have implications on the playoffs. We're still going to give our best bets, which is going to feature quite a few games that might be meaningless to some, but not to us. And then we're going to make sure that you have everything you need to know, not only this weekend, but to get you ready for next week when we really get to break down the fun stuff in the playoffs. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, putting it out a little bit later in the week after New Year's. Just going to focus on the NFL and mostly just those games that matter besides our best bets. So we're going to hop right in. We're going to get into the storylines this week. And again, we really want to cover the big, important storylines that still have some meaning going into week 18. And I think none bigger than the Steelers-Ravens game. And in particular, what's going on with these head coaches? I kind of think this could be a loser leaves town game. I think we could very much see the losing head coach on his way out, especially, in my opinion, if it's the Ravens. I think the Steelers, because of their whole pride thing, might be a little less likely to fire Tomlin, but it feels like the John Harbaugh thing is coming one way or another. I don't know what you guys make of this. Jake, you're a Steelers fan. Maybe you have a better read, at least on the Pittsburgh side, but do you think we're seeing, and is it even possible we see both coaches, depending on what happens? What do you think is going on in both of these situations?
Yeah, I think, especially from the Steelers' perspective, if you're having a 2-game lead over Baltimore, you lose a game where you put up 6 points against the Browns, in a win and you're in type of game. It's just horrible, a horribly coached game. And I think after that, if they were to lose to this Ravens team and not make the playoffs at all, I think Tomlin might be out the door. He had a comeback late in the season that was pretty good, but at the end of the day, if you flop it, then nobody cares. So I think that is a very strong possibility, actually. And on the other side with Harbaugh, I mean, if you lose to the Steelers twice in a season and you flop another season with Lamar Jackson, I feel like you might be out the door as well. Like, he had bad coaching in that Patriots game. He's had bad coaching in other games throughout this year that have cost them. And I feel like maybe he should be looked at if they lose this game.
Yeah, and I mean, Drew, do you think it's kind of a case of both of these coaches have been a little bit passed by? Like they're kind of the last guard of the old regime of coaches. Do you think that's part of the problem? Or maybe it's just at some point everyone overstays their welcome? What do you take on all this?
Yeah, I think like you've seen a musical chair set up at the offensive coordinator position for the Steelers for really the last decade and a half. Like they haven't been able to get that spot figured out, and you could say the same for the Ravens. Like a lot, we talked about a few weeks like the most disappointing teams in the NFL, and discussed at that time how Lamar Jackson's incredible playmaking ability has really bailed them out on offense for the last 5 years, whether it's Mike Bobo. I think he's probably the one that's going to get the brunt of the blame in this situation. And I think you could see both these coaches somehow find their way into coaching next season for both these organizations. But yeah, I think there's just a real lack of creativity on the offensive side of the ball for both teams. And you could say that's on Tomlin and on Harbaugh for enabling it over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. But yeah, this is an ugly game. It'll be really gross. I tend to think the Ravens find a way, and we see a split in this series as we typically do. But yeah, either way, very disappointing for the Steelers last week and the Ravens just this entire season.
Yeah, I think the Steelers in particular, depending on what they end up doing at the quarterback position and with a few other key pieces, with TJ Watt and this whole injury thing, I see a world where they keep Tomlin around as long as they're hanging on to this like slim hope. I think that if you're going to get rid of Tomlin, it makes sense to do it for a rebuild. The Ravens, on the other hand, it's a little different. You have Lamar, right? So unless you're just going to totally do the try to trade him, get the draft picks, rebuild thing, I see a world where they try to just make it work more with the coordinators, like you said. But to a certain extent, if the fan base just isn't happy anymore, maybe what you do is you kind of do that mid-career reset we see happen a lot of times with quarterbacks. And you go find somebody who Lamar is on better terms with, maybe a more creative offensive mind instead of going with more of like that traditional special teams manager head coach. You know, some of these other teams have seen a lot of success. They've hired these young offensive-minded guys who have fixed their quarterbacks or elevated their quarterbacks. And none of those quarterbacks they were working with are as good as Lamar Jackson. So maybe if you do that, all of a sudden the Ravens could see a very quick turnaround, and that's all they need to fix their problems. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think that definitely a loss will make things feel different because just not making the playoffs, I mean, that's an easy thing for a coach to always hang their hat on. Is if you make the playoffs, it's hard to get rid of you. So I think definitely depending on what happens in this game, let's look our way at who loses first, especially because that'll happen, you know, on Black Monday right after the season ends. But I do think if one of these teams wins and then has a very bad showing in the playoff game, don't rule out them getting canned right after that too. That's my only other take on the situation.
Yeah, and like you're saying with the whole TJ Watt, he's kind of towards the end of his career, and like you said, we have a huge question mark going into next year at quarterback position. I think it might just be the opportunity to do the full stack rebuild, like you're saying, because there's not really any thing like you're looking forward to next year. Got a few young guys on defense, but I feel like it is the opportunity to do the refresh.
Overdue in Pittsburgh for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point where I know they're prideful about having the like least amount of head coaches in history. You could probably go through 3 of them and still be wildly ahead of most of the rest of the NFL. So I think at this point it's definitely overdue.
He just keeps hanging on to those 9-8, 10-7 years every year that just keeps him alive.
Yeah, definitely. And he's kind of the opposite of another head coach we want to talk about, and that's Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles has somehow managed to go barely over 500 and win divisions, and somehow is sticking around the same way and has not looked good either. And so we've got another big divisional matchup. Now, this one's a little interesting because Buccaneers, Panthers, it feels like it's a winner take all. If the Panthers win, they do take the division. But if the Buccaneers win, which they are favored to win the game, it's a small number, but they're favored to win, there is still the chance that despite all that, the Falcons could win the game on Sunday and knock the Buccaneers out anyway. So this division is really interesting. I think the dynamic is fascinating. You have on one hand an up-and-coming team in the Panthers who were a dumpster fire for the last few years. They bring in Dave Canales. He seems to have turned the team around. They're going in the right direction. Bryce Young, while still not amazing, has gotten better every year he's worked with Canales. And then on the other side, you have this Buccaneers team who 2 years ago made a decent playoff run, lose a tighter game to the Lions. Everybody has some hope. Baker Mayfield is getting all this buzz. It looks like he's fixed. And then all of a sudden this year, it feels like regression, came like a monster. Todd Bowles and his questionable coaching decisions that he's made for years are all coming back to haunt him all at once. Even though he hired a nerd and analytics guy to help him out, it's still not working. They can't stop the run. They're aging on defense. There's a lot of stuff, right? But they could still end up winning this division. So I don't know what to make of this game either. Drew, I know you kind of think that this is kind of the passing of the torch moment in this division. So what do you make of this breakdown? And do you think most importantly, do you think the Falcons are going to play spoiler?
Yeah, I think this is going to play out in the perfect way that the NFC South should play out. I think you see whether the Bucs find a way to beat the Panthers, and then they'll see the Falcons beat the Saints. Like, it's just a complete dumpster fire of a division. It has been for several years. It's why really that the Bucs have had a stranglehold on this division for so many years. But yeah, I was a year early on Canales and the Panthers. I was beating the drum last year. Well, we had to watch Bryce Young get benched and then come back in and then look really good. And he had his struggles even this year on the road in some spots, which is why I kind of lean the Bucs in this game. But I think we all have been in agreement having Todd Bowles in kind of the bottom like fifth of our coach rankings in our model. The guy he's a dinosaur. Like, for everything he may do positively on the defensive side of the ball, he's been bailed out by just unbelievable offensive coordinators over the last 3 seasons. And now that Canales is gone, now that Liam Cohen is gone, they finally didn't knock an offensive coordinator hire out of the park. And a lot of it is driven, I think, by Baker Mayfield having kind of a down season. There might be some injury in the mix there, but Emeka Ibuka on a milk carton, he's been non-existent since about week 6. You finally have seen Mike Evans, Chris Godwin injuries come into play. And for whatever reason, that this team doesn't want to give Bucky Irving the ball when they get past the 20-yard line. So I'm done with this Bucs team. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. I really hope the Panthers can just close this out on Saturday.
Yeah, I would love that. I have a Panthers divisional ticket. I was with you. I was very high on the Dave Canales hire last year. I also bet them to win the division last year, so this is really a 2 years in the running for me. I would love to see it happen. And Jake, I don't want to spoil your best bet, but I know you think that there's a good chance the Panthers are getting into the playoffs regardless because of that whole Falcons game. But what's your take on the situation? Do you think Todd Bowles is gone if he doesn't win this game? I guess that's the real question we need to ask ourselves too, talking about coaches losing their job. It feels like that's the case. It feels like this game is for Todd Bowles' job, but maybe that's just my opinion. What's your take?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I feel like it's kind of long overdue, in my opinion. Like he's been kind of just riding a good team to make the playoffs, which has been saving him, and some, like you guys said, good coordinators. I think he is not that great of a coach, and I do think that this is the final straw that he would have. Regardless of what happens on Saturday, I'll get into it later, but I do think the Panthers will be the winner of the division, and I do think that he will get fired. But yeah, they've just been so many offensive tools, and yet they've just been struggling very heavily on the offensive side of the ball in a couple of games, and I think it's just time.
Yeah, I honestly think, too, that it's probably a year overdue. If we're being 100% honest, I know they won the division last year. They ended up losing to Washington in the playoffs, but I think if the Buccaneers could go back and do it again, they would fire Todd Bowles last year, promote Liam Cohen to head coach, and that would be the right move for them. You wouldn't have seen him go. And obviously what he's done in Jacksonville, he would have just continued to probably do the same thing. He was already on a great page with Baker. I think we would have seen a very similar situation to what's going on in Jacksonville in Tampa Bay, but you would have kept the guy in house. So it would have actually even been more of a correlated thing. So I think it definitely is one of those, you feel like you made the mistake. If you're Tampa, you just have to go ahead and you got to pull the trigger. I think that it's just, you accept that you messed up. Your roster is starting to age. So again, talking about correlating that new head coach with a new wave of the roster, I think it makes sense. I think if you let Todd Bowles linger around too much, then you get in a weird situation where now, if Baker doesn't stick around too much longer, or if we start to bring in a whole new set of faces on defense, are you firing the defensive coach? It could get really messy. So I think it would be probably the most natural time to do it, especially considering it kind of almost feels like a buyer's remorse thing on Liam Cohen. So that's kind of the way I see it. And then it's also a little bit more insult to injury that Dave Canales is the guy that was there before Liam Cohen, and he is probably going to be the coach that beats you or at least wins the division over you. So it's just going to hurt really bad if you're sitting there as Buccaneers ownership and front office. And I think it's just going to be time. I definitely think Todd Bowles is one of those guys who is suited to be a defensive coordinator the rest of his career. I don't see him getting another head coaching job, at least off the bat. And I think he just falls into that category where he's still got the mind for defense. You just can't trust him to run a team in the modern NFL.
And my head kind of went to, the graphic you always see with the Washington Commanders around all the different guys they had in the building with LaFleur, McVay, Shanahan, all that. It might just be the Canales and Cohen, but like to have those two guys in the building and just like continuously go with Todd Bowles, it might be a few years down the line that we see a similar graphic for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, especially if any of these coordinators that have obviously gone with Canales and with Cohen to their respective jobs, and if they end up getting big premier coordinator jobs or head coaching jobs, it's very much going to look like that, where all of a sudden it'll be the Todd Bowles coaching tree, and you're going to wonder how Todd Bowles ever had such a powerful coaching tree despite his ability to always underwhelm. So I think you're probably right with that, and it'll be funny. We'll see how it plays out. I do think, for what it's worth, I think he is going to end up being maybe a sneaky defensive hire for whatever team that might end up bringing him in, kind of in the same way Vic Fangio was for the Eagles after his failed head coaching tenure. And then I guess he even was with the Dolphins too. So Brian Flores as well. I think they will fall into that category. I think it definitely makes sense that we could see Todd Bowles ending up as one of those guys. And I mean, he probably won't be the only one. I think there are that cadre of coaches that it just makes sense that sometimes they just need to step back and go to where they're best. So we'll see how it all plays out. I think that the NFC South, it will find the dumbest way possible to come to its conclusion. I think we're all in agreement with that. And that is, I hope it's like a last play touchdown on Sunday by the Falcons. And it just is the dumbest thing possible. That's what I'm hoping for, because that division deserves it. It's an ugly division every year, and I will say though, it's just fitting. It's just fitting that they're going to be the division that has to go through. But all right, that is going to take us to our rant of the week. We've got a couple. Drew, this one's fresh off the press. We're recording this on New Year's Day. Last night was New Year's Eve. It was the first of the 4 college football playoff games. And Drew's got an issue with one Mr. Ryan Day. Drew, take the floor. What do you got? I'm sure you could go for an hour. What do you got for us?
Yeah, just what a clown that guy is. We talked in our previews about concerns that Brian Hartline taking the South Florida job was going to end up meaning Ryan Day gets more involved in the offensive game plan, and that bozo's fingerprints were all over that game. It's like he didn't watch a Miami game all season. He decided to leave Bain and Mesidor one-on-one often in that game, and Sayan was under duress most of the game because of it. I don't know what you see. If you look at his post-game conference, he talked about how they were so prepared and ready to start off strong in the first quarter, first half. Dude, I don't know what you were looking at for the last 2 weeks that prepared you for that game. It's like you didn't watch anything going into that. So yeah, what a clown. Ryan Day back on the hot seat, I'm sure, in the eyes of Ohio State fans after one of the biggest upsets that we've had in the playoff era so far.
Ryan Day has successfully played out kind of a choose your own adventure over the last 2 years. Basically, it was the what if I do everything but beat Michigan? And then this year he decided to flip it and said, what if I do nothing but beat Michigan? Let's see which one goes better for me. I think that literally that Michigan win this year is the only thing saving him from like true hot seat talk, despite the fact that they won a title last year. I think had they lost to Michigan again this year and then had this, he might actually be looking to be on his way out the door. I agree. It's clown stuff. He continues to prove that he's a great organizer of talent, and that's about his best role. And so I know that now GMs are becoming more of a thing in college. Is Ryan Day like perfect to be the Ohio State GM and actually find a real coach? Maybe Brian Hartline comes back after a successful year at South Florida. I don't know, but I agree. As somebody who was on Miami, I'm not mad with the outcome here, but it was bad. I was stunned.
Yeah, they just came out scared in the first half, scared to make any mistakes, scared to do anything aggressive. I think the only person who showed up the defense obviously was good, but on the offensive side of the ball, I think the only person that showed up for that game was Jeremiah Smith. Even Carnell Tate looked like he was on a milk carton or so. I didn't even see him the whole game. But Jeremiah Smith was the only one that showed up. He wanted to win. Sayan was scared. Their offensive line was terrified. It was hard.
And even somehow in a game featuring Carson Beck and Mario Cristobal, the clowns coming out of it are Ryan Day and potentially Julian Sayan with some of his decision making as well. It's crazy to me that you managed to out Cristobal and you managed to out Carson Beck. It's fascinating, truly.
There was an opportunity for Mario in late in that game too. He wanted to give that game away, and they give them credit. They went on a drive late in that game to put it away. So good for you, Mario. I'll be happy to be on Georgia, assuming they get by Ole Miss tonight.
We were talking about it yesterday. Mario, he did the stupidest thing before the end of the first half. Ohio State gets like a 2-yard play and he calls a timeout when it's still second down, and that gave them the time. They missed the field goal inevitably, so it didn't hurt them at all, but literally the dumbest timeout of all time to give Ohio State time to get down the field and get points on the board when you've had all the momentum. Didn't affect him, and like you said, yeah, I will probably be on Georgia if Georgia wins today.
We're gonna stick in college football. I guess it is an NFL topic, but it's a college football name. And this is for my rant, and it's Kirk Herbstreit. This guy's dog, I'm done with it. I'm done with his dog. We did the whole send-off 2 years ago for Ben, who was everybody's favorite dog. College game day, dramatic, emotional. I might have shed a tear as a grown man watching that and understanding the bond between a man and his dog. And a week later, Kirk Herbstreit has him replaced with this untrained menace that he's bringing from college campus to college campus. And now that he's doing Thursday nights, he's bringing this dog. And I don't know if anyone saw it on Christmas Day. He, before the game, is on the field with his dog, Bo Nix, who tells Kirk Herbstreit straight up, I'm scared of dogs. Don't want to pet your dog. And Kirk Herbstreit is like forcing him. He's like, here, try to pet the dog. He's really nice. He's really trained. Bo Nix is getting ready to play a football game. And this guy's trying to emotionally terrify him by making him pet his dog for national attention, despite the fact that, again, apparently we're just okay replacing Ben. The whole thing. It's crazy. I'm done with his dog. I'm already tired of hearing him in general with a lot of his takes that he's had in college football, but this is unforgivable to me. Forcing his second golden retriever down America's throats because it's popular and gets clicks. ESPN's guilty here too. The fact that they keep pushing that out there on College Game Day and letting it piss on the set and get in front of the guy kicking, field goals for Pat McAfee. It's crazy. It's truly crazy. No one buys the story anymore. It was fun the first time. We did the send-off. Put the dog back in the kennel. Don't take him with you. I don't care. I'm done with it. I'm done with Kirk Herbstreit's dog. I'm a dog guy. I really am. I'm a dog guy, but let's be done.
Make it clear we're pro dog on this podcast. We just are over this particular dog.
Yes, absolutely. 100% pro dog guy. My dog is sitting right over there. She's a sweetheart. But you know what I don't do with her? I don't make her go on the field before football games and harass professional athletes. Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple.
That Bo Nix interaction was one of the more cringe things I've seen in the last few weeks. Like, just clear hesitation, like no interest in being anywhere near that dog. And Kirk Herbstreit said, "Not your choice." It's happening.
And honestly, credit to Bo Nix. He handled it really well. For somebody who I'm sure was very, very uncomfortable, like he was super professional. He was trying to be nice. He knew the cameras were rolling. Massive credit. I don't know if I could have handled it the way Bo Nix did. So massive credit to him for handling that situation. But yes, it might be an old man yells at clouds take for me, but there are just some places you don't bring your dogs in. How about a football field being one of them? Crazy idea, I know. So, all right, I'm done. I'll let it go. Kirk Herbstreit, you and Al Michaels, the two of you have caused me so much anger for a number of reasons this year. I really am just over the both of you. All right, well, now that we got our storylines and rants out of the way, we do mean it. We are pro dog. I promise. We are pro dog. We are on to the best bets segment. This best bet segment is going to be a little fun. I want to put it out there. We are 29, 18-1. That's 60.4% year to date. We're looking to have another winning week to round out the regular season. Keep the tickets rolling. But this week is a weird week. We want to put it out there. This is not the easiest week to handicap, but we did our best to find two best bets each. Some of these are going to be on games that matter a lot. Some of them are going to be on games that are really weird. So we're going to do our best to find the angles. But again, like we said, this is one of those weeks where whether you're following our best bets or looking yourself, we encourage everybody to tread lightly, find all of the injury news, all of the sit-start news before you make these wagers because of how crazy this week can get. Without further ado, we're still going to hop into those best bets. Jake is picking one of those games that means a lot, and wouldn't you know it, Jake's backing his favorite team again. Jake, what do you got?
It's a rah-rah Mike Tomlin spot. I mentioned it earlier. I do think that Tomlin has been struggling a little, and that loss to the Browns was disgusting to watch, but I like the Steelers plus 3.5 in this game. Big under spot always in these games. Steelers-Ravens games tend to go under, and whenever there's a low-scoring total that tends to go under, you usually want to take the points. Add that to the fact that I just think this Ravens team is not as good as the Ravens we know. They have struggled defensively this year. They've had a couple of good games in the later half of the year, but they still have struggled on defense. And the Steelers defense has played really well. Like last week, our offense didn't do anything, but defense put up a good showing, only gave up 13 points. We might be getting TJ Watt back. And the Steelers just naturally match up well against the Ravens. They have a good pass rush, which slows down Lamar. He's been injured. If Lamar's even playing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the Steelers spot. I'm in line with the under. I think it's going to be a gross classic Steelers-Ravens game. It looks like Lamar is going to play. I think I saw Schefter mention he practiced in full again today. So I do think you get Lamar, but you probably get like an 80% version of him. So probably lose a bit of mobility. I think that plays into the under as well. I kind of lean Steelers team total under 18.5. I'll touch on that later when we talk about the primetime games. But I mean, that's not to say the Steelers couldn't win this 17-14. I truly think this is has potential to be a mine shaft under game. It either flies past the total, or I think we could be seeing a disgusto 13-10, 17-14, something like that, and it can go either way.
Yeah, definitely NFC North late season clash vibes coming out of this game. And as we talked at the top of the show, could even be a loser leaves town game on top of that. But as always, Jake says back his favorite team. For those that can see his freshly minted Terry Bradshaw jersey behind him, you know what he thinks of this game. He's backing the boys one last time in the regular season. But that'll bring us to best bet number 2. And Drew, I took a turn at it. Jake took a turn at it. You took a turn at it last week, and you're going right back to the well again. Somehow, 4 weeks in a row, someone's back in this team. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I think we just can't get off of them. I like the Raiders plus 5.5 against the Chiefs. They let me down in a big way last week with all of the, I'll call them opt-outs, more so tankathon, with Crosby going to IR, with Bowers going to IR. This is the shell of a team. But I just think this is a crazy line against a Chiefs team that is probably on similar quit watch. I mean, neither of these teams wants to win this game. The Raiders are trying to get that first overall pick so they can go waste it on Mendoza or Dante Moore. But you're going to get Kenny Pickett in this one. Probably a combination of Trey Tucker, Jake Beck at receiver, and then I think even Michael Mayer might be out. So I don't know who's playing for this Raiders team. This is purely I think this is way too many points against the Chiefs offense that has put up 22 points in the last 2 weeks with Ola Dukun. I don't know if I even said that right at quarterback. So I think the Raiders are live to win this game. I think you could see. I think the total's sitting in the mid 30s, just like another mine shaft under. And I like the dog in this one in a game that I think at least Kenny Pickett is an NFL quarterback. I think he's capable of completing passes. Raiders defense probably slows down the running attack that's already been terrible this year for the Chiefs, and you see a disgusting game that no one will be watching, but probably will be.
Yeah, I agree with this take. I think it is a bit of an overreaction for the Chiefs game against the Broncos. Obviously, they looked good in that game. It was a very big spot for them. Broncos came out very sleepy. And I just think the Raiders, they're a bottom team, but well, remember what the Chiefs did against the Titans, who are also one of the bottom teams 2 weeks ago. I think it's just an overreaction from last week. But the only concern I would have would be what we saw from the Raiders last week, where they are on just tank quit watch. I think you'll notice in the first quarter whether this Raiders team is going to stick in the game or not.
All right, both these guys agree. One last time, why not? It's the best way to go out, backing a stinky underdog. They say it's too many points. We'll see if it's too many points. This is probably going to be your game Red Zone forgot. Hopefully that goes our way and not the other way. That's the only thing I have to say on that. Otherwise, you guys have fun. You guys have fun. That will bring us to best bet number 3. It's my first best bet. And I'm going to take a team that's been fun. I'm taking the Bengals minus 7.5 versus the Browns. The reason I want to back the Bengals here is pretty simple. It's the Browns defense, home versus road splits. They're really great at home. We saw it last week. We called it on the show. They beat the Steelers outright. Going on the road, they're a bottom half of the league defense on the road for whatever reason. I can't quite figure it out, but it doesn't matter. The numbers are there. If we look at this Browns team, they're just getting depleted more and more every week. They lose Judkins 2 weeks ago. Now it looks like Harold Fannon's not going to play. I'm pretty sure David Njoku's not back. I don't know how the Browns are going to move the ball against a Cincinnati defense that has actually been improving every week. We've been covering that. They've been better against the run. Their pass defense has been at least better than it was. It's not great, but it's better than it was. And again, this Browns offense, I don't see how they're really going to move the ball. I think it's going to be a race to 10 points for them. And so if all you're asking me to do is back a team that is still trying, Joe Burrow is out there playing hard. He's got his receivers back. T. Higgins looked good coming off of his injury. Jamar Chase is still playing. I actually have a note here that he's 10 catches away from breaking his own single season record. So maybe we could see a little bit of forcing it to him down the stretch. Maybe they don't take the foot off the pedal as much. Chase Brown has looked good if they are going to try and run the ball against, a susceptible Browns run defense. I think this is one of those cases where, neither of these teams can make the playoffs, but one team is trying a lot harder than the other, at least it seems like, and it's a letdown spot. I mean, the Browns, the only thing that I think they care about right now is getting Myles Garrett his sack. if it happens, it happens. I don't think Joe Burrow really cares. He's been sacked a gajillion times in his career. I don't think he's going to be that Aaron Rodgers prideful, I don't want it to be me type of energy. I think if he gets sacked, he'll just fling it to Jamar Chase the next play. So I'm not scared of taking a big point or a big point total here against a defense that they just aren't as good on the road. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to lay the 7.5 with the Bengals. I think that they get it done. I think they put up a big number.
Yeah, totally agree on this one. I'll touch on it in my next best bet, but yeah, you beat me to it. I would have taken this as well. I think the home road splits for the Browns defense was enough for me to like this, and just seeing how the Bengals offense has been trending the last few weeks since that stinker against the Ravens. Yeah, I'm in lockstep here with you.
All right, Drew's in agreement with me. I know he'll cover it a little bit more when we get to his other best bet, so we won't waste too much more time there. But that'll bring us to best bet number 4. Jake, this is your second best bet of the week. What do you got for us?
Taking the Falcons -3.5. The Falcons are that team, that mid-tier team that obviously is out of the playoffs, but it still is tough to beat. Plays really well, has a really good offense, a lot of talent. Bijan Robinson might be the best running back in the league. Drake London is spectacular. And we saw a Kyle Pitts resurgence, which we've been waiting 5 years for. This team is kind of scary. They just beat the Rams, and their defense is also not bad. It's middle of the road. They've looked pretty decent in some games. So I just think that it's going to be a good game for them. They're going to finish the year strong. Kirk Cousins is trying to prove that he's still got what it takes. And there is an interesting stat. I don't think it really affects it, but the Falcons are 12-4 in games where they are already eliminated from playoff contention.
Yeah, that feels like the most Atlanta Falcons stat I've ever heard, to be honest with you. I think the look makes sense here. I don't know if I could personally get to laying the 3.5. I think very much could see a world where they win. It could be where they win by 3 exactly, and it's more just a matter of they're trying to win, end the season on a strong note. While it's not a direct win for the division, it technically makes them tie for the division, goes to the tiebreaker, so kind of something to hang your hat on. Raheem Morris, I think, he needs everything he can to make sure that he bolsters his resume when the time comes to review it, whether it's after the season or next season. I think there's enough there where the Falcons feels like the right side. I think we're also at the top of the market on Tyler Shuck. He's been solid, but at a certain point, he's not just going to keep throwing for 300 yards. I just don't think that's the case. I think that this Atlanta defense with Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell and everybody else involved in their back five and their secondary are enough to give him some trouble. You know, that Saints roster is depleted. They've taken a lot of injuries. It's really just been Tyler Shuck and his boost that's really kept them going, and they're a little bit of a schedule merchant here down the stretch as well. I think you're probably getting a little bit of a discount on a team that hasn't quit, and I think Jake's look makes sense. Like I said, it's 3.5. Shop around, obviously. If you can find a good number, even better. But I think Jake's on track here with most of what he's looking at for this game. So that'll bring us to best bet number 5. Drew, you're looking at a team total here. What do you got for us?
Yep, I like the Bengals team total sitting at around 26.5 right now. I think the initial thought here, as we touched on, is really just home versus road with the Browns. In 9 home games, they've given up just over 18 points a game, 264 yards a game, top of the league. Unbelievable at home. You flip over to their road games, they have given up over 28 points a game and just under 300 yards a game. So over 10 points more and just over 40 yards a game more. It's a totally different team, home versus road. You've seen Burrow with his full complement of wide receivers, with Chase, Higgins. It's just a different team the last couple of weeks since they had that stinker against the Ravens, blew out the Dolphins, and blew out the Cardinals, who are 2 bottom of tier teams, and that's really what the Browns are as well. I said I like the Bengals spread in this game as well, but I do think you see the Bengals defense playing a bit better. You've seen Al Golden implement some changes. Their rookie linebackers have played a little bit better the last few weeks. And Shedeur Sanders is still putting the ball in harm's way a ton. More turnover-worthy plays than big times throws this year. I think that could lead to some short fields for Cincinnati and more points. So, yeah, I'm on the team total over here.
Yeah, again, not going to go too much more into it. Covered a lot of it with my Bengals best bet. The only other note I will say is I do think that there's the potential that this Browns defense, if the Myles Garrett record happens early, if they start to limit their main players, Schwessinger's playing injured, Myles Garrett, they can't really afford to let him get hurt in the late season. I think all of a sudden you could see in the second half a very, very different looking defense that is already weaker on the road. I think the team total over makes sense. This could be one of those, even if it takes a minute to get there, all of a sudden, like we've seen the Bengals offense do, you could see that explosion, 1, 2, 3 quick drives in the second half, and all of a sudden you get 17 to 20 points and you're just cruising to the total. So I think that's a possibility too. Even if it looks like it's a little bit of a slow start like the Bengals can have sometimes, I think there's very much the possibility that things just continue to come up Bengals throughout the game. So that'll bring us to best bet number 6, final best bet of the week. It's my second best bet. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're going with another under. We're going Vikings versus Packers, under 36.5. You've heard me say it a few times, but NFL totals under 37 are now 34, 15, and 1. That's including the Browns versus Steelers game last week. That is 70% to the under since 2020. To me, that's enough to take this game. But let's throw in the fact that it looks like the Packers are fielding a literal practice squad team this week because they don't want to get anyone else injured before the playoffs. So we don't know what we're going to see. Probably going to see the most vanilla offense possible with players who haven't even played together other than in a practice setting. On top of that, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be from Minnesota just yet. It looks like J.J. McCarthy is trending towards being able to play. He hasn't been great. And if it's going to be Max Brosmer, Max Brosmer hasn't thrown for more than 100 yards this year. So I just don't see where the points are coming from this game. I really don't. So I'm definitely looking under. I'm going to trust the trends one last time, get us home another week. It's simple for me. Take the under. I know it's trending down. Shop around for the best number. I think all the way down to 34 is fine on this one. I really do. I don't see it. I could see this being a 3-point performance out of the Packers, maybe even a shutout. I think it's just under all the way for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with your take on this game. I think like you said, I think the Packers are literally fielding nobody in this game. It might legitimately be a practice squad team out there, so I don't see them putting up any points. And this Vikings team has been very vanilla the past couple of weeks, especially with Brosmer. So I agree with the under. I think this game is gross. Won't see it on Red Zone, corner TV of corner TVs. If you even want it on the corner TV. But yeah, I think it's a gross game.
I think it's fitting to go out gross one last time. So that'll wrap up our best bets for the week. Those are the 6. As we said, we're 29, 18, and 1 so far in the year. We're going to look to have another winning week on the best bets this week and finish the season strong heading into the playoffs. Now that we've got the best bets out of the way, we want to take a moment and let you know that if you do like this video, make sure to leave a like. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss one of our episodes coming every week. We're covering the NFL all the way through the end of the season with the Super Bowl, so we're really just getting started. The best time of year is the playoffs. Those are right around the corner. So again, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you're notified when we drop an episode, and you can ride out the rest of the season with us all the way to the Super Bowl. All right, well, we're jumping into the primetime games. There are a few less primetime games than usual. Obviously, no Thursday game this week and no Monday night game because it's week 18. But there are 2 Saturday primetime games. Both of them are huge, impactful for the NFC playoffs, as well as one normal Sunday night football game, which is that big Ravens-Steelers game. But first, we're going to jump to the first Saturday game. Going to break it down a little bit. It is the Bucs minus 2.5 versus the Panthers. Total sitting at 44.5. And it seems like we have some agreement here. Across the board, we're all looking towards the Bucs minus 2.5 in this game. Drew, lead us off. Why should we be looking Bucs?
Yeah, I don't like this. I hope this game just didn't. I wish it didn't exist, but here we are. I lean Bucs. I think this has got to be the bottom of the market with the Bucs. I think we're 8 weeks in a row they haven't covered a game. It's been just a dreadful showing down the stretch and an utter collapse. But I'm hoping and pleading that they're able to see that Bucky Irving is their catalyst to success on offense in this one. Get the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands. He's been turning it over. He's been putting it in harm's way for weeks. He's been playing really like a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL when you look at advanced metrics. So I think you see much more Bucky Irving. You see him get into the mix. This Panthers offense on the road has been much different than at home. Struggles with Bryce Young. Dowdle has not really been the same running back the last few weeks. He's been dealing with some injuries, and you see Hubbard getting in the mix a little bit more. But I think this is a gross, close game where I think you see McLaughlin, I think, has the edge in the kicking game, and the Bucs win a close one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think both these teams have had their major issues in certain games. Like you said, the Bucs have been really struggling lately. I think it'd be a funny narrative, especially like Bucs finally, turn it around, get that win, and then the Falcons ended and they don't make the playoffs anyways. I think it's just this team has just been kind of just floating away. I think the Bills game was like that catalyst where everybody was like, "Oh, this team is pretty good. They think they're still good," and then they lost by, I forgot what it was, like 10 points to the Bills, and then ever since then have just fallen off a cliff. And I think this is, like you said, the buying low on the Bucks. They still have a good offense. They still have talented players on the field. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do like the edge for the Bucks. And then I already mentioned the best bets, but I think the Falcons are going to come and ruin their parade.
I think this has the potential to be a true sliding doors moment. I think you could see the closest thing you could get to a swan song performance out of Todd Bowles on the defensive side of the ball, dial up everything he's got one last time, try to win the division in hopes to save his job, with the potential that all, like Jake said, couldn't matter anyway. But I think the Bucks are going to have enough to get it done. I think that Bryce Young has just been shaky enough on the road to where you just can't trust that he's going to be the guy to get over the hump just yet. And I think that Baker Mayfield has put the ball in harm's way. But if you're asking me at the end of the game, would I rather have Baker Mayfield or would I rather have Bryce Young in this game? I think my answer is still Baker Mayfield. So I think if we're laying a number under 3, I think it's winner take all. You're usually going to want to favor the teams with more experience in those situations. I think it's enough to lean the Bucks. And like Jake said, I'm personally rooting for it to happen just for the hilarity of the Falcons winning Sunday. So I think we're all in agreement there. We're going to take the Bucks. We think it's the right spot, but it's a hold your nose play, and don't expect it to be pretty, but they can get the job done. Saturday night, the battle for the NFC West and the NFC 1 seed. This one's a heavyweight matchup. It's going to be the 49ers plus 1.5 versus the Seahawks. The total is sitting at 49.5. Drew, you're looking the total in this game. Tell us why.
Yeah, it's a scary one. I'll go under 49.5 in this game. Obviously a terrifying one given how poorly the 49ers defense has played really the last month or two. But I think this is a bit too high, especially given the struggles we've seen from the Seahawks on offense without Horton, with a banged up Shaheed. You've seen teams really just focus on taking away JSN at all costs, and because they've struggled on the ground, it's been kind of hard for them to continue to like have success on the offensive side of the ball. And I think Darnold's definitely come back down to earth a bit, and this offense has kind of been figured out a little bit. You flip on the defensive side of the ball for the Seahawks, I do think that you maybe see a little bit more resistance than the Niners have been getting from the Bears and the Colts the last 2 weeks. But really for me, this is purely a fade the narrative coming into the game. We've seen just explosives galore from the Niners the last 2 weeks in their games. And I think because the Seahawks are struggling on offense, you just see a bit more of a grungy, slower game that both teams are just playing really tight and with so much on the line.
All right, that's Drew's case for the under. Jake, as well as I, seem to lean the Seahawks here. Jake, why don't you lead us off? Tell us why you're looking at the Seahawks in this case, and let us know how you're going to play it.
Yeah, I like the Seahawks minus the 1.5 or whatever line it ends at. Probably money line is the smarter way to do if it's minus 1.5, just so that you don't have some weird stuff like the Rams game that happened a couple weeks ago. The reason I lean the Seahawks, the Niners, their defense has been absolutely horrible the past few weeks. And the one thing they've just been winning games on is their offense. Their offense has been a juggernaut recently. But the one thing that the Seahawks do very well, top 3 defense in the league, they stop them. I think this is the one team that can come out and actually get some stops that are needed against this Niners team. And they have the offense that is good enough to compete against this defense that has been injured all year and been struggling. So I think the Seahawks are just the better overall team. I'd say the Niners probably have the edge on offense by a little bit, but it's just that defense is so much better than the Niners. So I would lean them in this game. And I know you're going to touch on it a little bit, but Darnold has a big incentive for passing touchdowns this week. He needs 3 touchdowns to get $2 million incentive. So I kind of like him to come out and throw the ball around the yard.
I also lean Seahawks here. I agree with Jake. I think look for a cheap money line if you can. Laying 1.5 should only be the last resort. But I think he kind of nailed it. I think if you look at the 4 main units, taking out special teams, just looking at the offenses and defenses, I think you by far have the best unit in this game with the Seahawks defense. And I think that the Seahawks offense is not that far behind the 49ers offense. And then there's just that one black sheep of that group, which is that 49ers defense. And I don't want to do anything in regards to backing that against a legitimate team. I think against these weaker teams like the Colts, or even in a shootout against a weak defense in the Bears, you can get away with it. The Seahawks team is different. Genuinely speaking, they're probably a top 3 team in the league. I think they're just better than the 49ers. I know that it's a situation you might be hesitant to trust Sam Darnold given his track record. But I think, again, you lean on the defense. You do enough to get the job done. And my bonus play, like Jake said, is I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Darnold over 2.5 passing touchdowns because of that incentive. While it is a big game, they're not going to try and force an incentive to happen if the game is still on the line. I think that if this game does end up in a type of shootout, you have a natural path there anyway. And let's say there's a world where the Seahawks do have a little bit of a lead, and let's say they're down on the goal line. They have a choice to run or pass. They might help their guy out, get a couple million extra dollars. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on it at some plus money just for fun in this game too.
Incentives in a game for the 1 seed. I don't know if I'm there with you on that, but okay.
I mean,
I think it's
to
just
be
a
fair,
fun bet at plus money.
Also, to be fair, it is a bet against this horrific Niners defense. It's not just the incentive bet.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think there's a very legitimate path where it happens naturally. I do think that it's not like, hey, they're going to force it. I think if this ends up being a shootout type game, very much possible. Well, that'll bring us to the final game of the regular season. It's that AFC North battle that we've already talked about a little bit, but it is Steelers plus 3.5 versus the Ravens. Total is sitting at 41, and it seems like it has been dropping all week, so don't be shocked if by kickoff it's lower than 41. Drew, how are you playing this game?
Yeah, I touched on it a little earlier. I kind of lean Steelers team total under 18.5 in this one. Didn't mention before, but no DK Metcalf. Talked about it in my breakdown of my love for the Browns last week. It's just a different team without DK Metcalf. They can't extend the ball down the field. It becomes very one-dimensional, focused on the run and some quick passing to the tight ends and checkdowns to Kenny Gainwell. And I think that just makes for a much more simple game plan for the Ravens. Like I said, I don't have a strong lead on the side, but I just don't see the path to the Steelers having a lot of explosive plays here.
I touched on my side of this game earlier in the podcast, but basically, it's just AFC North games in cold weather, late in the year, tend to always go under. You want every point possible. So I like the Steelers plus 3.5 in this game. I think it'll be a close scoring game. I think both teams have opportunities to win this game, but I do think it'll be a low scoring, and I like every point. And you're giving me 3.5. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and I say don't overthink it. Take the under 41. Tomlin versus Harbaugh unders. 9 of the last 10 matchups have gone under. They average a score of 33.1 points in those games. On top of that, Steelers, they're 9-3 to the under in their last 12 divisional games. It's a high-stakes game. Baltimore wants to run the ball. Steelers have a short passing game that's going to chew clock, especially if they complete those passes. I think it's under or nothing, so don't overthink it. I'm taking the under. All right, well, that will bring us to the end of another episode. Again, a little bit of a quicker one. A few less games to cover, a few less primetime games to cover. Some games that just don't matter, so we're not going to bother covering those. But we did give out our best bets. We did break down all 3 of the pivotal games coming up this weekend. And so as far as the agree board goes, we have a few games we do agree on. Drew and I, very much in lockstep on the Bengals. Jake also likes the look. We gave him multiple ways to play it. Lay the points with the Bengals. Take the team total over with the Bengals. We think that is a Bengals spot, however you want to play it. We were all in consensus on the Buccaneers. We think that they are going to find a way to take that game against the Panthers. Now, will that get them the division? We don't know, but we do think they're going to win that game. We all laid the 2.5 with the Buccaneers. And then Jake and Drew, they're in consensus that the Raiders are the side against the Chiefs. Plus 5.5 was too many. I don't know if I can do it with that team anymore, but they're going for one last stinky ride with Pete Carroll and crew. So those are our agrees this week. Nothing head-to-head. We're all going to be rooting for Jake's Steelers, even if we have a different approach to that game. But it will be funny if we can give them a hard time, even if they lose. So not really a head-to-head, but, I won't be mad if I get to give Jake some crap over the Steelers losing the division. But like we said, that'll wrap it up this week. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episodes. We're going to be covering the playoffs every week of the playoffs, breaking down our favorite bets for those weeks. So make sure you stick around, hit that notification bell to get notified whenever our new episodes come out. Otherwise, let's have a great weekend. Let's find some winners, and let's cash some tickets this weekend.
Let's have a week.